Hello, my name is Ian Wallace and I run a website called www.seekingchange.co.uk. It will give you a lot of understanding and awareness and tips and tools in order to have better relationships and therefore better lives. One thing I want to connect with today to just have a brief look at is perception and reality, in a sense that whatever we see is, and whether it makes sense to another person is not even worth considering. In some senses it's irrelevant because that person will see it differently to us, and it's about understanding our own perception of reality and working out what is the reality and what is the perception. With people I've been working with this week, the perception was that the relationship partner they were with was not interested in them, not interested in what they were doing, and that was causing lots of conflict in the relationship. So we looked at whether or not that was a reality or a perception, and the lady had a perception that the person wasn't interested in her. So when we challenged that in the room within the counselling process, and I said to the gentleman, is that the truth? Is that the reality? And when he said no, it's furthest from the truth. And she was quite shocked because she'd always held the belief that he wasn't interested in anything she had to say or do. And when we checked with him as to whether or not what his reality was, he said, well, actually, I am interested, but you just don't give me a chance to connect with you to understand what you're doing. You tend to talk, but you don't tend to tell me anything. And this was a communication issue. And sometimes what people do when they're feeling insecure, we create bigger stories and we lose the words, the meaning within the story. And so sometimes less is more. And she was building big stories to tell him, but he was losing the content. So when we worked on this in the room and we started looking at how the perception was and the reality was different in her world, then she was able to interact with the person, the gentleman, and she was able to ask him, instead of thinking she knew, she was able to say, actually, is this the reality? Because that's what I think it is. So thinking something is never a good idea, because by the very nature of thinking it, it means you don't know it. And so you need to find out whether or not that particular view that you hold is the real view. And when we worked in the room and he obviously said that no, that wasn't the way it was, she was then able to relax and start to ask questions about his reality instead of thinking she knew it. That unleashed a whole range of subject matter that we were talking about and helped them grow closer in the room because they were able to share communication structures and they were able to share information, and that helped them to understand each other a lot more. She could then relax because she didn't think he was having a go at her, he wasn't interested, it wasn't personal, and she could then relax with the process, enabling him to relax, and then they could talk a much different way. Perception is one thing which we all hold. We perceive the world the way we've been shown the world, but it's our world, not anybody else's world. But what we do with perception, we assume it's everybody else's world as well. Try not to assume, try not to use perception as reality. The only way you can find reality is by asking the other person and connecting with them. Talk, don't think, and that'll make it a lot easier for you to connect and understand each other. Take care, look after yourselves. I'll speak to you again soon.